diamonds are forever. They are all I need to please me. They can stimulate and tease me. They won't.
Welcome to another episode of The Diamond Trade, where we dive deep into the brilliance, complexity, and shadowed corners of the diamond industry. I'm your host, Ms. Diamondz, and today we're going to unpack something that affects all corners of luxury: the evolution of corporate paternalism and its transformation into corporate social responsibility, or CSR, in the diamond trade and luxury jewelry sector. Now, we know diamonds are forever, but are the ethics surrounding their trade and production as unchanging as the gems themselves? Today, we're looking at how luxury conglomerates, LVMH, Kering, Richemont, and Signet, have shaped the narrative of corporate responsibility. From their early paternalistic approaches to their current CSR strategies, we'll explore how this transition affects not only the industry, but the world. To understand where the luxury diamond industry is today, we need to take a trip back in time. Corporate paternalism was a hallmark of the early 20th century. This concept was born out of industrialization, particularly in Western economies, where companies were the backbone of urban growth. In the diamond industry, this idea was often tied to the notion that wealthy owners, often of colonial or imperial backgrounds, had a responsibility to care for the workers they employed. But of course, it wasn't necessarily out of altruism. It was also about maintaining control and ensuring a steady supply of labor. Diamond companies like De Beers, which once dominated the global market, had a paternalistic approach to their workers, particularly in South Africa, where the majority of the world's diamonds were mined. This paternalism went beyond just wages. It included social programs and housing. While these initiatives were presented as a benevolent effort to improve workers' lives, they were also tightly controlled. These companies held power over the workers' access to basic needs, which in turn created a dependency that benefited the industry. In this context, diamond mines were often more like self-contained communities, and their corporate owners were like benevolent rulers. The system of control was invisible at times, but was deeply ingrained in how things operated. But here's the thing. Paternalism often masked the exploitative nature of the relationships between the corporations and their employees. Workers weren't necessarily given the opportunity to make decisions about their own welfare. They were provided with just enough to keep them alive, but not enough to truly thrive. The companies controlled the systems, and the workers had very little say. This was the corporate landscape for decades. Fast forward a few decades, and the winds of change began to stir. After the mid-20th century, societal expectations around business practices began to shift. The 1960s and 1970s saw global movements for civil rights, environmental sustainability, and corporate accountability. These movements put pressure on companies to not just focus on profits, but to also consider the wider impact of their actions. By the 1980s and 1990s, with the rise of consumer activism and environmentalism, companies like De Beers and later luxury conglomerates like LVMH and Kering started to reframe their approach. Corporate social responsibility, CSR, emerged as a concept that shifted the focus from just making money to considering how businesses affected the environment, society, and the lives of their workers. So, what did CSR look like in the diamond industry? For starters, it meant that diamond companies began to address human rights concerns that were often tied to their mining operations. A prime example of this shift was the Kimberley Process certification scheme, launched in 2003. The Kimberley Process was a response to the devastating impact that conflict diamonds, also known as blood diamonds, were having in war-torn African countries. This initiative was designed to prevent the trade of diamonds that funded violent conflicts, and it was a significant milestone in the industry's embrace of CSR. But while the Kimberley process was a step in the right direction, it has faced criticism for its lack of enforcement and transparency. Even today, there are debates about whether it truly prevents conflict diamonds from entering the market and whether the Kimberley process can be considered a genuine commitment to ethical practices or just a public relations tool. However, the rise of CSR didn't just address conflict diamonds. It also signaled a broader shift in how luxury brands thought about their impact on the world. Brands under LVMH, Kering, and Richemont began to place more emphasis on sustainability. For example, Kering, home to brands like Gucci and Boucheron, has made strides towards improving a supply chain transparency and reducing the environmental impact of its operations. In 2013, Kering even launched its own sustainability report, outlining its commitment to sourcing ethical materials and reducing carbon emissions. As we dive deeper into the present day, it's clear that CSR has become much more than a passing trend. It's now a central part of the business strategy for luxury giants like LVMH, Kering, Richemont, and Signet. Today, CSR is more than just about keeping your hands clean from the blood diamond trade. It's about sustainability, ethical sourcing, and even how employees are treated within the corporate structure. For example, LVMH, the conglomerate behind iconic jewelry brands such as Bulgari, has emphasized eco-friendly sourcing and reducing environmental impact. They've committed to sourcing diamonds responsibly and ensuring that all their luxury goods come from certified ethical sources. Their commitment to sustainability even extends to the craftsmanship of their jewelry, with a focus on sourcing materials that are both rare and responsibly mined. Similarly, Signet, the world's largest retailer of diamond jewelry, has increasingly invested in initiatives to trace the origins of their diamonds, and they've committed to ensuring their supply chain is free from human rights abuses. They've even implemented programs to support communities in mining regions, such as providing access to education and healthcare for workers' families. Yet, CSR is not without its challenges. Critics argue that luxury brands may be using CSR as a tool to increase their profits by catering to an increasingly conscious consumer base, rather than meaningful long-term changes in the industry. As CSR becomes more mainstream, it risks becoming just another marketing strategy, where businesses create the illusion of ethics while continuing to operate in ways that benefit the bottom line. So, what's the real impact of CSR in the diamond industry? The truth is, the story is still unfolding. While there has been a shift from paternalism to corporate responsibility, we need to ask ourselves, how far have we really come? Are we seeing a genuine change in corporate ethics, or is it just a new face on the same old system? The rise of ethical consumerism is pushing luxury brands to take responsibility for their actions, but it's unclear whether these efforts are transformative or simply cosmetic. What's clear, though, is that CSR has become an essential part of how these companies do business, and it's something that customers expect from the brands they buy from. The challenge, however, is ensuring that CSR goes beyond superficial initiatives and leads to real change. As we conclude today's episode, we see that the diamond industry is at a crossroads. From the paternalistic roots of early corporate practices to the modern era of CSR, the shift is palpable, but the journey is far from complete. The push for corporate responsibility within luxury jewelry companies like LVMH, Kering, Richemont, and Signet is changing how we think about ethical consumption. However, the question remains, is this just the beginning, or will CSR become a mere buzzword? Diamonds may be forever, but the questions we ask about their origins, their impact, and the companies behind them should evolve just as rapidly. As consumers, we need to stay vigilant and demand transparency. After all, the future of the diamond trade is not just about shining bright, it's about shining with integrity. Thank you for tuning in to the Diamond Trade. I'm Ms. Diamondz, and until next time, keep your sparkle ethical, of course.